All right, it's time for Yogi and the Beach Man. Hi, I'm Jim the Yogi.
And I'm Rick Beach, the Beach Man.
We're two Michigan transplants now living in Southwest Florida.
In fact, we're cousins born in 1964, just a month apart.
I like to meditate.
And I like to play bass in a band.
I'm into chanting Om.
And I'm into throwing down some classic rock.
But together, we're on a mission
to promote people that are helping other people.
We want to make the world a better place.
One conversation at a time.
So sit back,
turn up the volume,
and get ready to laugh.
Because we like to have fun
while we spread the love.
Interviewing lovely people, yes, we have fun.
Okay, welcome to Yogi and the Beach Man. I'm Jim the Yogi. Unfortunately, the Beach Man is MIA today. I don't know what that story is, but I'm sure we'll find out. And we hope he's okay. Our prayers going out to you, the Beach Man, for your safety today. Don't know what's happening. But today we are with Nancy Dudley, a certified Transcendental Meditation teacher for over 40 years. Welcome to the show, Nancy. I'm so excited about this content today. You have no idea.
Thank you, Jim. It's fun to be here.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here and taking the time to talk to us. And for our listeners, not just to learn about meditation if some of them don't know too much about it, but all the things that have gone on with Transcendental meditation in this country are just amazing. So I look forward to getting into some of those things today.
Great. Let's talk.
Yeah. And I understand you are in Florida as well, correct?
Yes, I am.
And what part?
Yes, I teach in Florida. I teach in Sarasota once a month in the Sarasota area. And then I also teach on the East Coast. I actually live on the East Coast near Vero Beach.
Okay. I've been to Vero. Nice place.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you get into TM?
Well, my older sister and my mother had started, and then I was in junior high, and I feel like that's when life started to get a little stressful. I think it might happen earlier these days, but I was noticing some, I was always a little nervous and anxious, but it was started to get worse, and I had some physical symptoms like knots in my stomach all the time, things like that.
Okay.
So the sad part was that I always say this because I remember thinking, okay, this is what I have to live with. This is what it's like to grow up and have these kind of maladies. I just kind of thought, okay, I better get used to this. But my mother fortunately said to me, well, you might want to try TM because that really helped me. She had migraines and her migraines went away when she learned TM. So I did. And, it was very transformative in my life. I didn't have those stress reactions anymore. I felt this inner confidence and clarity of thinking. And I also felt this inner happiness that when I looked around me in high school, I remember thinking, these kids aren't happy. And they were seeking happiness, but I felt like I had some stability of happiness and clarity, and I just thought, okay, great, now I can work with this, and I ended up graduating early and going to college and things like that. So that was my story pretty much.
Oh, that's excellent. I remember in probably about middle school, I came across a TM pamphlet. It was my mom had gotten a bunch of books from somebody's attic that had passed away, and I was just looking through these books, and here's this TM pamphlet in there. So intrigued. I wish, I didn't know I could act on it at the time. It was a different time, and I didn't have a cell phone back then or anything to make contact or email or websites or anything. But
TM has been around for quite a while. Maharishi Mahesh Yogi brought TM to the West in 1959. And soon after, he couldn't teach all the hundreds and thousands of people that were interested. So he started to make TM teachers. And there's over 10 million people that practice the Transcendental Meditation technique now. So there's a center out there for anybody that's interested, I would say.
All through the country, I imagine, eh?
Yeah, all around the country, all around the world. Definitely.
Oh, excellent. Around the world. That's good because we have listeners now in 23 countries. So never know who this message.
Yeah, that's great. No, just look. I would say in the US, it's either there's two organizations, tm.org or
Mm-hmm.
for women, they like to go to tm-women.org. And there's also an 800 number you can call and find out the nearest center.
Why a separation for a separate site for women?
Well, it's just because a lot of the course fee that one pays to learn TM goes
Mm-hmm.
towards our programs with at-risk groups in society. We teach a lot of veterans and you know, people with ADHD and homeless and prisons and all kinds of groups. And at some point, it was decided that there's a lot of ladies issues and that people might like to have a separate organization. That's all the same thing, but it just kind
Mm-hmm.
of focuses more on women's issues like domestic violence and things like that. So I like to teach that because through them also because I've found that sometimes women are more comfortable, just I don't know. That's just and they really feel good about that, when they learn TM that it's really contributing to helping, women with all kinds of issues.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful.
But it's the same.
So, I mean, pretty much meditation's a household word now. What makes transcendental meditation different than other forms of meditation?
I'm gonna help you say it. Transcendental.
Transcendental,
Yeah,
thank
it
you.
doesn't have an M in it. Thank you. But it's there's so many different types of meditation out there that come up in the last 20 years or more. So and that's great. Anything that works for somebody is wonderful. But what happens is that people start to lump them all together. And I have so many people that come to me and say, I can't meditate. I have a monkey mind. I'm all over the place. I can't push out thoughts. I can't concentrate. And or I've tried this app on my phone and it was boring or it didn't work for me. So um I just like people to know that different types of meditation have different goals and they also have different brainwave signatures. That means the effects of on their brain. And if you'd like me to go into it a little more, I have a little chart, which I am going to, I guess you'll be showing on
Sure.
the video, but I'll look at it here so to refresh my memory. But basically, there's been so much research on TM over the last 50 years or so, and
Mm-hmm.
over 670 studies conducted. And this one study, what they did was they compared the three major types of meditation. These are the three horizontal lines in the graph. And they were looking at them in terms of the amount of cognitive control or effort involved in the process. And the main thing that we always say about TM, what makes it unique, is that it's a completely effortless process. So if you look at the graph, you'll see that the first type of meditation is what scientists call focused attention. And that's
Okay.
any type of concentration technique where you focus on something and when your attention wanders, you bring it back. Your
Mm-hmm.
attention wanders, you bring it back. So you're always forcing your mind to come back to one point of focus. And that's actually a lot of work. Um, and so the brain waves associated with concentration or focused attention are gamma waves, which when scientists see that type of brain wave, they know that there's a lot of activity going on in the brain functioning. So 80% of all meditations in the market fall into this category of concentration. So a lot of people that come and say, I can't focus have tried that kind of a meditation. And then the second type of second bar in the graph is what scientists call open monitoring that just includes any type of mindfulness, which is very popular these days, or
Mm-hmm.
any type of guided meditation that you might get on an app on your phone, maybe, or contemplation techniques. And certainly those are less effort than concentration, but still you're being mindful of something. You're monitoring like, okay, what's now? Oh yeah, my breathing. Oh yeah, okay. Or just being in the present moment. Yes, I'm experiencing that, things like that. And the theta waves are associated with that type of meditation. It just indicates that the mind is kind of processing whatever's coming in now. Okay, what's happening now? What's happening now? Like that. And then the last bar on the graph is called, scientists call it automatic self-transcending, and that's TM. It falls in that category. The brain waves associated with TM are alpha, particularly alpha 1 brain waves. And that's what scientists call the resting rhythm of the brain. So when they see alpha, they know like, okay, this brain is really chill. It's in that resting mode. And we know that in TM, there's all kinds of research on the metabolic rate goes down, and heart rate, breathing, galvanic skin response, all kinds of things like that. So there's a very profound rest on the level of the whole body and the whole nervous system, and that includes the brain. But the difference is that the brain is very rested, but it's also highly alert. It's a different rest than sleep. When you go to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
you hope you wake up in the same place because, you're pretty much, you lose consciousness in a sense. But in TM, what you're doing is you're expanding the conscious capacity of your mind and developing, more consciousness. And I have another chart which we might show, and it shows these two looking down on two brains, two people. So you see you're looking down and you see their little nose up at the top there. And one, well, it's basically just showing they have the EEG cap on these people, and there are different electrodes at different parts of their brain. And so it just shows that the difference between if someone's sleeping, or no, sorry, if someone has their eyes closed, or if they're transcending with TM. And the difference is the amount of enlivenment and communication between all parts of the brain. I mean, it's just that if you've heard of neuroplasticity,
Mm-hmm.
just that idea that everything that we do has an effect on our brain functioning. So like if you go out and practice your tennis serve every day, then a certain part of your brain is going to light up. And I mean, not not literally, but the
It would
neural
light up if it were being monitored, right?
the neural connections in that part of your brain are going to become stronger. And those neural connections are going to support you being good at this tennis serve. So, it really is true that what we put our attention on affects the functioning of our brain and the health and longevity of our brain functioning also. So, so with TM, it's what the experience is you can see in the graph, there's the whole brain, the neural connections are being strengthened throughout the brain. It's what they call global coherence. And that's very useful, not only because it's a nice experience and afterwards you feel clearer and increased intelligence, creativity, faster reaction time, improved memory, things like that, but because any doctor will tell you that the health and longevity of your brain functioning is based on the strength of those neural connections. So if you can do something for 20 minutes twice a day that really strengthens that, then it's really going to improve your brain health. And that's why there's a lot of excitement these days with TM in terms of preventing and reversing cognitive decline.
That's
So
a big deal right now.
yeah. So just to finish up my original point, which was that, okay, during TM, the brain waves show that the brain is very deeply rested, but it's not a dull kind of rest. It's what we call restful alertness, because you're more deeply rested than, 3 or 4 times deeper rest than you gain during a night's sleep. It's been measured, but at the same time, you're more awake, measured by brain functioning, than usual. So it's a very unique state of consciousness called restful alertness. And all the benefits come from that.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned with these other forms of meditation, some of the things you're doing, whether you're focusing your mind or, being guided through meditation. What makes TM different? Are you allowed
Well,
to share that?
the effortlessness. If
Yeah.
you remember on that chart that different
I
types
just
of
meant as far as technique without going into all the details.
well, yeah, it's an automatic process.
Okay.
So just to kind of set it up a little bit, we always use this analogy that the mind is like the ocean.
Hmm.
Works really well in Florida. And so, everybody's familiar. You look out in the ocean, it's always rising and falling in waves, ceaseless activity. Just like our mind is always thinking, 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 churning out thoughts. But when we transcend with TM, and to transcend just means to go beyond. So the whole purpose of TM is to transcend or go beyond that active thinking level of the mind to quieter, less active levels of awareness. And just like if you dive into the ocean and the wave activity settles down, and if you could get it to the ocean floor, no activity, but really expansive, silent, that's that analogy, that we're really expanding the conscious capacity of the mind from just being on the surface, whereas where we are always pretty much all during the day, to all these deeper levels that we can experience those also. But what turns out is, back to why TM is effortless, is because these deeper levels of the mind are more attractive to the mind.
Mm.
Anybody that says, "Oh, I can't meditate, I can't focus," well, it's because they're maybe, I would think, I mean, I'm not an expert, because they're focusing on something, and maybe a candle flame. There's one technique where you light a candle and focus on that. After maybe a few minutes or so, your mind is like, "Okay, I got this. Is there something else more interesting?" And we're kind of beating ourselves up. No, 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 no. I have to focus. But really, we should give ourselves credit that our minds are very creative and intelligent, and they are always seeking greater happiness and greater fulfillment and greater charm. So TM is it's just a technique. It's a
Hmm.
mechanical technique that just sets up the initial conditions. It gives the mind this inward direction, and then it's all just about allowing the mind to go in the direction that it wants to go, kind of like getting out of the way in a sense. So it's the opposite of trying to control the mind, or focusing and concentration, any of those things. It's all about just allowing the natural tendency of the mind to take us to greater levels of happiness.
Yeah, that's, I mean, what could be better than greater levels of happiness, right?
It's there for everyone. That's the thing.
Yeah.
In today's world, there's so much stress,
Hmm.
and that people call toxic stress and pressure. And, even during these times, people are not sure what to believe and what to think. And, there's so much stimulation from everywhere, and so many different groups trying to kind of convince us that they have the truth, and all these kind of things. I mean, it's like, it's not possible to sort through all that on the conscious thinking level, really. So that's one of the reasons that I find great joy in teaching TM, because it's not a belief system or anything like that. We're not trying to tell you who to vote for. We're not trying to tell you what to believe in or anything like that, But it's just a mechanical technique that allows the individual to settle their awareness and contact those inner reserves of silence and expansion of consciousness and happiness, creativity and intelligence, which are there for everybody. And that's really, once you have that, it's kind of, you just find that you are able to make better decisions. You're not thrown off by all the stimulus so much, because you're anchored in that value. And that value is much bigger than anything that the world can throw at you, basically. Yeah. So anyway, that's why I really feel like I'm so glad to be teaching TM at this time, because so many people, even just in the past few years, have come to me and said, I used to feel like I had a grip on things. I'm doing well, and these are not always young people,
Yeah.
These are successful people too. And they say, but the last few years, I don't know. I just don't know anymore, and the world, what's it coming to, and everything like that. So people are recognizing that they need that anchor in themselves, and really, where is the greater truth than in your own experience, basically.
Very,
Yeah,
very good
yeah,
point. Yeah. The beach man and I talk a lot about things that we've learned in the recent times and over the past couple of decades about how propagandized we've been and how much misinformation is out there. around food, around medicine, around so many things. And it's like, yeah, it's like, I was talking to a guy yesterday. He's like, nobody knows what to believe anymore. So having that anchor and that deep rootedness in self, I can see it
Yeah.
being really important. I I do want to talk about something I find just totally fascinating about TM. I've been fascinated about this for a long time since I've heard about it. I've read about it. You mentioned it's over 600 studies. I know there's over 400 peer-reviewed studies on TM alone, but the TM group did this huge study, I guess, or experiment back in 1993. And I believe you told me you were there when I talked to you earlier
Yeah.
in Washington, D.C. I'm going to let you tell the story because you know it way better than I do. But
Okay. Well,
I
this
wish
is,
everybody knew this story.
yeah, yeah. And, actually, there's a website that I can tell people about to go to that will give them a little bit more of a complete introduction than I can say here. It's called, what's it called? Antidote to Violence.org. So it's ANANTIDOTE, antidote, TO, violence, VIOLENCE, antidote to violence.org. And it comes from this idea that the experience of the individuals practicing TM, that, oh, I feel this inner peace inside. I feel like I'm less reactive. I don't get stressed out as much. I feel like I have, I can just respond more appropriately to everything in my life. And I have that inner happiness that doesn't, that makes life flow more. So, those, everyone is their own light. and,
Mhm.
and, even one person giving off more light to their environment is going to influence their surroundings. So way back in the 60s, Maharishi, who was trained in physics, he was had his degree in physics. He said that, really it should be that even a small percentage of the population in a society should have a positive effect on the entire society. And and they started doing research on that back in the 1980s. The first research was published. They actually called it the Maharishi effect. You can Google it. It's a scientific term now, but because it was named after Maharishi, he predicted it. And it's just the idea that if you have a small percentage of a population behaving in a more orderly manner, it will affect the whole population. You see it in physical systems.
I got to, how does it affect the population?
Well, to become more orderly. So you can like see it in physical systems. I'm not a scientist, but I can think of some examples. One would be that in a laser,
Mhm.
which stands for light amplification through stimulated emission of radiation, laser. Uh, and so basically, I think what they do, photons are like all over the place in coherent light. But if they're able to go in and stimulate even just 1% of those photons to line up and to be more in sync, then I guess there's more like a phase transition, and the whole system, all the photons line up, so that you have a laser, which is a very powerful ray of light that can cut through metal and all kinds of things. So that's just an example of even a small percentage of a population having a very dramatic effect on the orderliness of the entire group. I'll get to my experience in a minute, but I just wanted to say that the first study they did with this back in the 1980s, they took like eight cities in the U.S. that had more than 1% of the population practicing TM, and they matched them to 8 control cities, and they looked at the FBI crime statistics over a 6-month period. It might have been a year. I have to check. Anyway, and they found that the crime rate went down 8% in the TM cities where they had just 1% practicing TM, and it went up 8% in the control cities. So it was a relative decrease of 16%. And that was pretty big,
Mhm.
So then they started doing more research. Over 50 studies have been done over the years around the world. And I was just very fortunate to be part of what was called a group for a government back in the 1990s, where we had 4,000 people come to Washington, D.C. and this was they had figured it out mathematically. This was a, the right percentage to affect the crime rate in that area, and even a greater area than that. So they told the police department, okay, we're going to come in the summer. We're going to have these 4,000 people, and we're going to lower the crime rate. I think it was, they said like 20% or something. And the policeman said, good luck, crime rate never goes down in Washington, D.C. in the summer,
I actually heard the police chief said the only thing that's going to decrease our violent crime rate by 20% in the month of July would be 2 foot of snow.
Oh yeah, okay, that's a good one. Yeah. So we all came from all over the country, and we were staying at, college dorms that weren't being used, things like that. And then practicing TM and advanced program and TM City program also, and just found that, I can send you a graph probably of this, but that it was just as they predicted, that the crime went down, like I think it was 25% more than expected. And what were we doing? We weren't out there trying to tell the criminals to not, commit crimes or anything like that. The point is that the people, it's not that everyone in society has to learn to meditate. And it's not even that those who are prone to criminal acts have to meditate, although we do teach them in prisons and things like that. But it's just that influence comes from that deeper level of coherence and orderliness. And that's what we were talking about. We transcend to that deeper level of consciousness. And that level of consciousness, we could equate it with the unified field level in physics. So it's kind of like a unified field level of consciousness. So that level of consciousness has as one of its qualities this greater orderliness and coherence. And so individuals are experiencing that in their own brains, but they're creating, like, you could almost think, a ripple effect throughout society, so that everyone starts to like, oh, okay, I need to have this. Well, maybe I won't steal. Maybe I'll get a job, or just like it affects on the most fundamental level the consciousness, the collective consciousness of everyone. So that's really exciting, and that's always been a big part of the TM organization, to really have, to influence the collective consciousness towards more peace and harmony in the world. I mean, that's why I started TM. One of the reasons, because I wanted world peace, in my lifetime. And I recognized that, even as Maharishi always said, that, wars and outbreaks in society are really built, they really come about because of the collective stress and tension that gets built up in the air, over time. You can feel it. If you walk into somebody's room and they've had an argument, it's kind of like, okay, hi, I don't want to stay, but, so that's just a small example. But, if there's so much stress and tension on the individual level, the collective level influences, that influences the collective level. And then the collective level, of course, influences the individual again. It's a reciprocal thing. That's why people are feeling stressed out now. It's in the air. So, I mean, we have to do something on a very fundamental level to dissolve the stress and increase the orderliness. And that's what TM and all our programs are all about.
I love
Hope
it.
I answered that.
I've got a question. So
Uh-huh.
4,000 of you are in the city of Washington, D.C. meditating. About how many hours a day or how many minutes a day are you guys meditating?
It wasn't like all day or anything. We had meetings during the day and things like that,
Okay.
and even like we had somebody rented a swimming pool, and it was hot, things like that. But we did our 20 minutes of TM twice a day, and I think there was some extra things because we were on a course also. But that's what I'm saying. This what we call the Maharishi effect of 1% of the population having that influence. It just takes people practicing TM 20 minutes a day, to have that influence.
That's amazing. In my mind, I'm thinking like you've got meditators going 24/7, in shifts, or, keeping that energy. But no, it's just you guys were doing your normal thing of twice a day, 20 minutes.
Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, that's the effect, because people, and the reason why we called this a group for a government was because the idea was to show the government that, if you could help us set up groups like this, it's something for people to move their lives and, be in the same place and meditate together twice a day, then, we can really bring peace on an invincible level so that, so that it won't be conflicts and things that come up. They just nip it in the bud kind of thing. And I remember they presented it to Clinton and things like that at the time. And it was like, okay, I don't know how much this cost, but they said, you spend so many millions or something like that on a B-52 bomber, and, even a tiny, tiny portion of this to help fund this group. And you won't need B-52 bombers and things like that. So, yeah, this is something that we're always working towards.
How well did that go over? I mean, what was the response of Clinton and the government at that time?
Well, it's not, I mean, I know that he looked at the research and everything, and I think it may be that he learned TM and everything, but it wasn't like he convinced Congress to, to fund this group, right away, or to stop funding B-52 bombers. But I think it's something that, even though we see a lot of turmoil in society now, there is a level, on a deeper level, that maybe the press doesn't, publicize as much, where there's a waking up in society and people realizing, oh, okay, in order to balance out this level of variety in my life, I have to go deeper. And that's, whether they try TM or any type of meditation, there's that seeking and knowing that there's something more available to us. It's not, even if I get rich and have plenty of money and a yacht, whatever, maybe I'm still going to feel like I could be more fulfilled in some way.
Oh, I've worked for millionaires that are the most unhappiest people I've ever met. So
Yeah,
I think happiness is way more important than the yacht and the
it is.
mansion and
It
everything
is,
else. So.
and people, so often people identify with their job or with their wealth or something like that, or like, oh, I'm a computer scientist, I'm a mother, I'm a, fashion designer, I'm a whatever, but then at some point people realize I'm more than that label. It may be on those quiet moments in themselves that they kind of, just settle down and like, oh, there's something bigger. When they're in nature, they feel more expanded and more unified with everything. You're touching on that unified field level of consciousness even there, or when they're jogging and they're in the zone, so people have tastes of that, but they don't always have a systematic way to tap into it on a daily basis and to dissolve the stress, which is stopping them from having that experience all the time. Yeah.
And TM provides that. That's an amazing and beautiful thing. So you mentioned to me earlier when we first started talking, and I was wanting to bring you on the program, about another program that the TM meditators are doing that just kicked off in September, I believe, Meditate America. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. I just went to the website, meditateamerica.org, before we talked, and I found out that just this Thursday, actually, they're going to have a replay of that global live stream, that Meditate America Gala, which took place at Lincoln Center. Hugh Jackman was hosting and everything like that. So if people want to go to meditateamerica.org on Thursday, October 17th at 7 p.m., click on the link. Sometimes they don't get it going immediately, but just stay on there, and you'll see that gala. It's a huge campaign, a nationwide campaign, particularly during this election time. We wanted to, there's a whole syndrome called, I think it's called election stress disorder, that they've identified. Now I actually Googled it, and because people are feeling even more anxious based on, like, oh my God, the election is coming up, what to do, and whatever. So we wanted to create more orderliness and coherence from that deepest level during these times. So, with that idea, we said, okay, Meditate America. Even if you can't learn TM at this point, even any kind of meditation would help. That's we just want people to realize, like, okay, don't get thrown off by all the chaos. The answer is inside, that kind of thing. So to this end, like, we have all the different cities. I have Meditate Sarasota and Meditate Vero Beach, and we put out press releases. We're also, the TM National TM organization has lowered the price to learn TM, which is a one-time course fee that covers the TM course and follow-up for the rest of your life. They lowered that. It's a flat rate fee of $480 to learn TM, and during these 2 months. And then also in lots of big cities, especially, I'd like to get something like this going in Sarasota, but like I know in New York City, they have grant money and things like that, and they're reaching out to a lot of the first responders, firefighters, and hospital, healthcare workers, and things, police, and things like that, and having them learn TM for free. We like to do that as much as possible. We really do try to do that a lot. So the idea is, you'll get more information if you watch the gala on Thursday night at 7 o'clock. But the idea is to kind of, okay, let's increase the well-being, the happiness, the orderliness in our country, and then nature, will help to bring about the best outcomes, whatever is meant to happen. But we have to support the positivity in society, and we can do that like that. Yeah.
So it's possible that if enough people meditate, the Green Party will win the election?
Anything is possible if that is the most coherent, thing to happen. Yeah, it's all possibilities, but so that's why it's up, for our little human minds to figure it out. Is not always, possible, but if we get that collective coherence going, the best thing will happen. So, and I do want to, just because you're talking about local things, I was hoping that you would mention, ask me about the Heal the Healers Now sometime before we go off the air. Is that
Oh,
possible?
yeah.
Okay.
Please share.
Another website you can go to, Heal the Healers Now, NOW.org. And the reason I'm excited about that was because it's another example of how, how we can transform the consciousness, the collective consciousness, in groups. So during the COVID, epidemic, my sister Sue and I were part of in Florida, which part of a nationwide program where they went into hospitals and said, okay, we're going to teach the nurses and doctors, medical personnel for free, because they were these first frontline people, and they were so stressed. I mean, they have hard jobs anyway, but they were so stressed. And yeah, you were one, right?
I'm one of them.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, well, we can talk about this, but but the idea was to give them something to balance that out. So taught, TM is now taught in over 100 hospitals around the country, and in the Sarasota, Tampa area, also in Miami. The big hospitals took us up on this, and specifically in Sarasota and Miami, we had 2 research studies going on with the group. So Sarasota partnered with the two large hospitals in Tampa, Sarasota Memorial, and they had 104 nurses that we taught. And what they found was that over a 1-month period, the anxiety level in this group, they had a group of nurses and then they had a control group, like that. The anxiety over 1-month period, the anxiety level went down 62%. And then it was a 3-month study. So, it stayed down that whole time. The control group, it went down. Yep, that's right, 3%. I was thinking it must be more than that. Okay, it went down 3% in the control group. And then PTSD, something that nurses experience, in over 1 month with TM, PTSD went down 53%, and 9% in the controls. And then the burnout, which is just the emotional exhaustion that people feel when they're in these situations, that went down 27% with TM. And in all the cases, it went down that much in just a month's time which is pretty amazing, but it stayed down for the whole 3 months of the study. And we had, I could just tell you, I don't know the exact numbers, but in terms of nurses, they're the sweetest people.
Well,
And,
thank you.
yeah, you're a nurse, and I've been a caregiver, for some years of my life too. And I know how hard it can be. You feel so responsible for someone else's health.
Mhm.
So they get into these jobs because they want to help people. They want to give. That's their whole profession is based on compassion and giving. And then, I remember talking to some of these younger nurses. They had just started and they said, I've all my life I want to be a nurse, but I've been doing this for 6 months and I'm thinking of getting out of it. I can't do it. It's like, whoa, it's way harder than I thought, and
It's stressful.
yeah, really stressful. You're taking on, other people, and
Yeah.
so this nurse even that told me that she learned TM and then she's like, okay, I can be a nurse now. I can do this. I got this in my toolkit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there are some statistics just in terms of nursing that there's some like, I don't know, so many thousands of nurses that are leaving the profession, they're retiring, but there's only a small percentage of thousands that are actually entering right now.
Yeah,
So
they're
we really
predicting a
want to,
huge nursing shortage.
yeah, we want to support nurses. There's another website, tm-nurses.org, where it shows about our outreach to nurses and the continuing education credits that people can gain when they learn TM. Things like that. So
Very
that
good.
study that I talked about was actually published in the Journal of Nursing Administration, presented at their annual Magnet Conference in Philadelphia last year. And we're very grateful to Jen Bonnemer, who is the lead researcher in Sarasota Memorial, because she's, you know, really spearheaded a lot of these studies.
Excellent. Any
Yeah.
push to get TM in the schools? I mean, what would that look like?
Yeah, there has been, if you go to davidlynchfoundation.org, which
Mm-hmm.
is the filmmaker David Lynch is a very strong practitioner of TM, and he really wanted to get into the schools and things. You'll see they have all these different areas that we work with them with our outreach to at-risk groups in society. Um, and they're, in the US, in the public schools, there's just a lot of hoops to
Sure.
go through. There's like in South America, and many countries in South America, there's thousands and thousands of kids that have learned TM and that schools that have, it's just part of their curriculum, things like that. Also, and there's other countries in Europe and Asia, things like that. In the US, it's more there has been some in private schools in the
Mhm.
Washington. They really were focusing on inner city schools, like in Washington, D.C. And there was some like in San Francisco and places like that. Um, because schools where, I mean, every school can be stressful, but there's some schools where you're taking your life in your hands just going to school. So they really focused on that. And there are some, there's some videos that, of these principals and teachers just talking about the difference that it's made. And the students, which is very heartwarming because you know, kids kids are kind of like little sponges and they absorb whatever's there. So, when they sit up and say, yeah, I have this thing called quiet time, which is when we all meditate together at school. It's just like 10 minutes. And then afterwards, I just feel like I don't feel so angry and I can focus better. And, I'm just not so worried all the time. And it's just very heartwarming. So yeah, there's definitely interest in that. But I would say maybe a little bit more success in other countries than in the US, but we're always working on it.
Good, good. Um, Being a yoga teacher, I've taught meditation before and techniques, and some things are contraindicated. And from my understanding, there is a contraindication for meditation as well with some people with psychiatric conditions. Is that
Um, I mean, anybody that would come to me that had a psychiatric condition, I would consult with their doctor. I mean, that's,
okay?
we always ask that if someone is seeing even a therapist or something once a week or more, then we want to let their therapists know that they're starting this new program, and they give it the okay if it's something serious like that. So yeah, we always work with the doctors on that. But there's a lot of like Vietnam veterans or any kind of veterans that have learned TM, which have some pretty severe PTSD.
Mhm.
So it's not like TM can't help, but we want to be in conjunction with the doctor, and just proceed, maybe a more of a follow-up, and really kind of work together with the doctor.
Yeah, I think it's more not PTSD or anything like that, more like schizophrenia or some mental issues like that, where meditation can actually be a little bit contraindicated. Just
Yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert on this, I have to say, but
okay.
I've taught people who are, a lot of people, I won't say this is a mental condition, but that tell me they have ADHD or bipolar, or just autism. There's studies on TM can help with autism, and there's definitely a lot of studies that helps with depression and, like I said, PTSD, things like that. But um, it's just a simple technique, really something that just kind of helps the mind to settle down to its own source. And,
Hmm.
you know, just that it's nothing from the outside, it's no medicine or anything to take. It's not, it's just something connecting more with yourself.
Yes, yes. And speaking of medicine to take, I know that TM, I believe the American Heart Association actually recommends TM for lowering blood pressure.
Yeah, that's based on the research. And I do have a statement by the American Heart Association which they like us to read. So I'll just read
Okay.
that. We like to be correct in this. They say the Transcendental Meditation technique is the only meditation practice, including mindfulness-based stress reduction, that has been shown to lower blood pressure. Because of the many negative studies or mixed results and a paucity of available trials, all other meditation techniques, including mindfulness-based stress reduction, received a class 3 no benefit level of evidence C recommendation.
You
So
got
yes.
some accolades there.
So that's, yeah, there's been, National Institutes of Health actually funded some of the research on TM. There's just been so much research that it really, I think I have a chart on that to show where they're comparing TM to different other types of meditation, stress management, mindfulness, biofeedback, muscle relaxation, and showing that it has twice as effective in reducing blood pressure.
I looked at the chart. There was one like multi there's one that
Combined.
went where, yeah, the combined where they actually went up.
Yeah, I know.
Blood pressure went up on some people when they combined a bunch of these things.
I don't know what that was exactly, I mean, we could look into it, but, there's all kinds of protocols that they try, education, like, okay, let's educate you that you don't have high blood pressure. I don't know. Um, so yeah, we'd have to look into that, but I was impressed that really increased blood pressure.
Yeah.
It might be because one thing they say with TM, and this study in particular, is that it has a high compliance rating, which means that people actually do it.
Hmm.
Oh, in other words, like, sometimes they're like, oh, I know it's good for me, but I don't want to do it. But with this study, they said, high compliance rating, these people, they had high blood pressure, they like to meditate, and so it worked.
Yeah. I can imagine when you're doing multiple things also, there's a stress level with that too. Oh, I gotta
Yeah,
do this, I
yeah.
gotta do that. Where
I know.
the
Then you don't
TM
need
is,
that if your blood pressure's high.
yeah, yeah. And with TM being simple and effortless, it's like a
Yeah,
no-brainer.
it's nice.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Uh, so we've been asking our maybe last 10 podcasters or so. Um, and I'm going to ask you, Nancy Dudley, what are you doing to make the world a better place?
Oh, it's that elevator speech thing. You know, I'm just like, I just helping individuals connect with that inner reservoir of peace, contentment, and happiness within, so that they can shine brighter in our world, and together, because there's a lot more things that unify us than there are that separate us. So just
Yeah.
to enliven that unified field of consciousness that is there for everyone. so that we can have a better world more uh, more quickly, and that everyone can enjoy the full potential of this nervous system that they were really meant to experience in their lives. We have
Mm-hmm.
so much energy, intelligence in this nervous system, in this body. And even Einstein said he was only using like 10% of his mental potential. So there's a lot of possibility out there, and I just like to see people own that and show them an effortless way to connect to it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love the connecting of the unified field of consciousness. You've mentioned that a number of times. I really wish the Beach Man was here, because we've talked about Paul Hess, another guest that we had, was talking about doing muscle testing, kinesiology, um, to listen to the body's response of what's good for you and what's not good for you. Your body can tell you. And he does this remotely. So it's using that
Yeah,
unified field of consciousness to
right.
do it remotely.
Action at
So
a
the Beach Man
distance.
says,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
believe in that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
mean, there's, so many things that are kind of, you think, on the outskirts of science. It's only
mhm,
because, people have the experience. And, but then they have to kind of prove it in terms of, the science wants to kind of get the hard data and everything. And that's why I feel that Maharishi was really a leading expert in consciousness, because he opened the door for scientific research on these deeper experiences of consciousness. Before
mhm.
that, people would think, oh, enlightenment and things like that. It sounds nice. It's kind of ooga booga, whatever. But then Maharishi said, okay, let's have somebody meditate with TM, hook them up to the EEG, all these machines, and show that that higher states of consciousness, enlightenment, are not positive thinking. It's not an intellectual kind of concept. It's grounded in the functioning of the physiology, and people can have that experience, if they just clear out the cobwebs, the stress and strain in the system, enliven that innate intelligence, then, it's our birthright, basically. Yeah.
Is he's who the Beatles went and spent time with in India, isn't it? If I'm correct.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And he, the Beatles, Maharishi was doing world tours at that time, but at some point he went to India and had a teacher training course, and to teach teachers of TM. I don't think they took that course, but they came and spent some time with him. And they wrote some nice songs, during that time. Across the Universe is one
One of
that
my
you.
favorite Beatles
Yeah,
songs
yeah,
for
I love
sure.
that one too. When I listen to it, I think like it's like they're meditating, they're describing some things like that, and that expansion of consciousness. Um, and so, then they had a lot of pressures in their lives, things like that. And then, but later on, I mean, I think they continued to meditate. And later on, I know that Paul and Ringo have been part of some of our fundraisers for TM, and the David Lynch Foundation. So they are very strong TM meditators. They're always giving endorsements and helping with fundraisers and things like that. And George. George was my favorite Beatle. I was on a phone call one time with a World Peace Project in the UK, and hundreds of people are connected with Maharishi, and George kind of came in on the phone call and said, hi, I just wanted to say hi to everyone, and hi, Maharishi. It was so sweet. This was probably a few years before he passed away. So there's so many people that practice TM. Not all of them will tell you,
Hmm.
especially the politicians and things like that, but a lot of movie stars will talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like a secret weapon.
Interesting. Secret weapon of TM.
Uh-huh.
Um, what else do you want to share? We've got just a few minutes left here, and I know you had a lot of information I think that you're prepared
Yeah.
for. I don't know if we got
Um,
into all of it.
yeah, I could talk about, I know that I just kind of scratched the surface in terms of consciousness and development of consciousness.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, people learn TM for different reasons, whether it's to sleep better or to lower their blood pressure, whatever. But it really is a technique for expansion of consciousness and development of higher states of consciousness, which is our birthright, like I said. The head of the International Transcendental Meditation Organization, Dr. Tony Nader, is Maharishi passed away in 2008. And so he gave the reins to Dr. Nader, who is a medical doctor and a neuroscientist and a scholar. So he has written a book that people might be interested in. It just came out recently. It goes a little bit more into this idea of consciousness. I have it here. Consciousness is all there is. So, you know, there it is. Consciousness is all there is. Take out my bookmark. Basically, it's the paradigm of, you know, the materialist paradigm is really not, there's holes coming into it these days, and people are realizing that, oh, there's a deeper reality that unifies everything. And so he talks about that, the consciousness paradigm, and both the research and, you know, of course, having that experience ourselves. So if you wanted to have more you know, intellectual understanding of this type of thing. Of course, somebody like me, you come to Sarasota at tm.org or write me or whatever, you know, I can tell you more about TM, give you the course, things like that. But if you're interested in more of really intellectual understanding of consciousness, then I would suggest Dr. Nader's website, which is Dr. Tony Nader, DrTonyNader.com. And he has podcasts where he talks just like you. He talks to, like, I mean, real brains. I mean, I can tell you, you know, these are they get into some very mind expanding things, you know, people that are recognized experts in the field of consciousness. So I think they would have a link to his podcast on his website, and the podcasts are also, you know, they're on Apple and all the podcast platforms. He also has a Facebook page, Dr. Tony Nader. So that's just a little bit more, you know, to dangle for people. If you really are a seeker and just want to learn more, then, you know, just dig into this. And I'm always happy to talk to people or anything also, like I said.
Excellent. I have a question for you. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but they figured out how many meditators they need to bring into Washington to create, you know, what ended up being 25% less violent crime. Has there been any studies or math done on how many people would need to be meditating, doing TM meditation to really affect the world where we'd have a peaceful world?
Of course. This is another course we had back in 1982, I believe, where they figured out the square root of 1% of the population, which is actually, if people are practicing TM and also advanced TM program, TM City program, they're creating more coherence more quickly. So they realized that they didn't need even 1%, just the square root of 1% was sufficient to have the same effects. So they, at that point, the square root of 1% of the population was like 7,000 people for the entire world. And so they gathered together at a college in Iowa, and people from all over the world came. And there's you know, research that came out of that, not just crime rate, but like hospital admissions, traffic went down, traffic fatalities, the stock market went up, you know, all kinds of good things, positive results came about, but the negative tendencies in society just dissipated, you know. They weren't there anymore, and the positivity was able to manifest. So that was back then, and then since then, we've always been working on having this kind of a, you know, this magic number. And just last year in India, where there are a lot of people and a lot of, they were able to have a 10,000 course. 10,000 actually satisfies that requirement. And then now they're just getting it together to have a few groups of 10,000 throughout India. It's just a little bit easier to pull it together there. They can get into the schools and teach a lot of you know, young people TM and the TM City program, and then these people are very excited to be part of an you know, movement like this to create world peace from their own homeland. So there is yeah, there's ongoing right now. We're at an exciting time, because once we have these 10,000 groups, then we really expect to see what we could call that phase transition in society towards greater orderliness. Yeah.
I look forward to that happening. There's a lot of wars going on right now.
Yeah, sometimes right before the switch, things get a little bit more agitated.
Hmm.
So we keep that in mind, that it's not that the world is falling apart, but that, there's a major transition happening, and, purification can be part of that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Nancy, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. I
Oh,
guess
I
me
love
today.
talking to you. I missed your cousin. What was his name again? Beach Man?
Rick the
Rick.
Beach
Okay,
Man.
Rick.
Yeah. His
Hi,
last name
Rick.
is Beach, so
Sorry.
he calls himself the
Oh,
Beach
okay.
Man.
I
So,
get it. I get
yeah.
it. Yeah, I really enjoyed talking with you too. You can tell. I hope I didn't talk too much. My enthusiasm
No.
starts to spill over a little bit, but I appreciate your questions and your listening.
And I appreciated you being here. So thank you
Great.
so much. And I look forward to having you back again if you'd be interested in
Yeah,
doing
there's
that.
always more to talk about. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were
Sounds
so many
good.
things you touched on. I mean, we could go deeper into one of those things. So,
Yeah, and I think I will, I mentioned some of these websites, but maybe on the actual broadcast, we can type them up for people, make it easier.
yeah, I can put them in the comment notes. So, all right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for being here, and
All
you
right.
have a
Thank you,
blessed day.
Jim. Take care.
So if you just listen to this podcast and you appreciate the content and the work that we're doing, we would love your support. Look in the comment section of this episode. Subscribe, rate us, comment. This gets our podcast in front of other listeners. And if you noticed, we don't have advertisers. For the cost of a cup of coffee, you can help keep it this way. Become a supporter right now. We'd appreciate it. I'm Jim the Yogi.
I'm Rick the Beach Man.
Meantime,
Peace.